Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Napoleon A Total War with a Great War mod. We're back with another multiplayer scenario, and I'm revisiting a battle that I've already done, or a scenario that I've already done, which is the Siege of Amara, where we have a British force being besieged within this town by a Turkish force. And yeah, last time I did this, I played as the British against the Turkish AI. This time around, I'm playing as the Turkish, and we have, well, it's a multiplayer battle, so we actually have a player to play the British this time around. And the thing with this scenario, it's a little bit like the Tannenberg scenario. It could have done a little bit of work. I think it would have worked better for us if there was actually a time limit on the battle to force the Turkish player to attack. I think having an indefinite time period didn't serve the scenario well, because there was eventually it was going to be hard for a British player to win this battle, given that the Turkish player starts with a lot more artillery. So I think that would have helped, and also would have forced the Turkish players to advance forward with maybe without artillery support, which would have been quite difficult. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and start here. So it's going to start with an artillery barrage. And the thing is, this time around, the scenario is a lot more accurate to the actual historical battle than last time. Last time I played this, when I played the British defending troops, what I had done is I'd just taken all kinds of British troops that I wanted. But in fact, most of the troops at Amara for the British Empire were Indian troops. And so that is reflected this time around with lots and lots of Indian troops. Right now, we have the Turkish force, or the force of the Ottoman Empire, advancing over open ground towards the entrenched position of the British. I'm sending in provincial troops first to kind of soak up a lot of the initial fight. As we could see, the British have the field guns firing shrapnels, but also machine guns to blast the troops. We're kind of saved by the fact that there's an outer trench here, so we're saved a little bit by the machine gun fire. But as we can see, this unit's down to, at this point, it's only one guy that made it away. All the others died. But we still have a few units that get into the trench. They're also followed by regular Turkish troops. And then I also have a flanking troop that is going to move in to attack at the flank. My artillery is eventually going to shoot down the British machine guns. And also the placement of the Indian troops. I had a problem with that when I played the scenario against an AI as well. Just being able to get them to fire over these trenches, but what you have to do is you have to stand them in the standard formation, and you have to micromanage them all the way up to the edge. It oftentimes is actually better not to have them stationed in the first trench, because it's so low, and have them stationed back here, where you have a greater chance of actually firing above. They're trying to kill us? Yes, they are. So now we're even returning fire, I think, towards the machine guns, trying to shoot them down. It's a heavily entrenched position here. And once we get past all the trenches and stuff, there's the entire town behind here with lots of different houses that the troops can hide in. Also set up some trenches here, cornered off streets, and it's quite deadly. I was also worried that maybe there were more machine guns back inside town as well. So my troops have now opened fire, but the problem of course is that they're firing towards this right here. So we've got a big sandbag wall, or maybe that is supposed to be a stone wall, I'm not sure. With multiple layers of it, and then the Indian troops sitting in these trenches. So most of the damage going to be done to the Indians here are actually going to be done by the artillery, although my main concern is actually to blow up the British artillery, which is doing quite the number on my troops. So at this point we've got the flanking force ready, and they're firing. We've got the main force situated by the trench, and the provincial troops have made it into this small trench out here. But we're not really making a lot of headway, so I'm sending in some irregular cavalry, the reserve cavalry units, which I think almost shot each other there. Luckily for me they didn't, but they're gonna charge in through these openings right here, and they're going to try and go for the artillery, but they're gonna be checked. Their advance is going to be checked by the Indian troops, and quite a fierce melee ensues, as I thought my cavalry would be able to win this fight, but clearly they didn't, and the Indian troops are actually gonna hold off against the irregular cavalry, both units, and they're gonna be cut down quite severely. So I'm gonna have to try and push my cavalry through to get to the British artillery. At the same time, I'm now moving up the flank troop and the main troop up forward, and I'm sending the provincial troops in a bayonet charge to take the first trench. And we'll see how that goes. This unit is down to 31 men. I think, if I recall correctly, I'm just gonna sit these guys on the wall here at some point, and they're gonna sit here and fire. We can see that the Indians have suffered quite a lot due to Turkish artillery fire, and they're being pushed back to the second trench, and a lot of Indian troops are now pulling back as well into these houses. Now the problem here was, for some reason, a lot of these houses made it so that I couldn't actually see the Indian troops that were in there, and also they are able to soak up quite a bit of artillery fire as well. Very nasty position here, where they're able to fire from up ahead down onto the trench, and we can see the cavalry fight is still going on. An artillery piece in a house is broken down over there, and as you can see right now, I cannot see them. So that's quite deadly, the fact that my troops can sort of not fire back. Seems like this unit's charging out. They've lost 40% of the house. They don't want to get stuck in there when it explodes. More shells coming in, hitting the houses here. They're charging out to meet this provincial unit. We seemingly had one unit completely destroyed. These guys have made it up now. They've forced away the artillery crew. They're dealing a bit with the Indians. Here's some of the artillery crew that's still stationed here. And these guys are being fired upon by some troops back here as well. So it's a heavily layered defense, and we can see right here my cavalry is being utterly slaughtered. I think not only by the enemy, but by my own troops. They shot them. However, the Indian troop here lost a lot of men as well. And if we head over here, the Indians actually sent away all of the provincial troops. So even though we did manage to kill off a lot of Indian troops, and we kinda cleared the trenches, at the same time we didn't really. There's still Indian troops here. 2 units. And then beyond there, there's still Indian troops in these houses. Not that one, because, well, they charged out of that one. But we're still receiving massive amounts of fire from over here. Firing over the trench onto my troops, trying to make it in at this point. You can see a little bit of a melee fight against the Indian troops down here, as we try to breach the trench. Also, there's fire coming from this house as well, even though I've destroyed part of it. So we can see fire even though we cannot actually see the troops there. And still, they do have a few function guns. Actually, 1 function gun. I was successful in blowing up most of the British guns at this point. And these guys have been decrewed. And now we're moving troops into the trench. Still, there's a little bit of a melee fight as the Turkish troops are trying to conquer the trench in very tough melee fighting here against Indian troops, which are holding on surprisingly well, given that they've faced so much artillery fire and so much rifle fire as well. Plus then, of course, our charge. Here we didn't actually really manage to push through, and my troop is being pulled back as there's about 65 Indians here. And then I think, oh, we have a small group of 20 here. My idea here was to have the troops firing. Maybe that would help. And I mean, it's kind of crazy to they're right next to each other, firing with bolt action weapons straight into each other. Still, they seem to kind of fire past each other, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I also have this small group up here, but they're getting hit by murderous fire from the house, so they're not long for this world either. So at this point, it hasn't gone that great for my troops. And I was kind of worried because I still have to take the bloody town as well. And I have lost tons of troops approaching. We can see tons of dead troops out here due to artillery fire and machine gun fire. Tons of dead troops all over. Even more dead troops in the trench. We're trying to advance here as well, but there's a lot of obstacles in the way. We got stone walls, and we got British Rifle Corps sitting up here firing at the enemy. They are, however, going to retreat to the... Oh, they've already put troops in this house. So 2 Rifle Corps. Very accurate fire. I'm still trying to blow up a lot of these houses to deny them to the enemy. And trying to get that... oh, we did get the last artillery piece at this point. Indian troops are evacuating this house. I was able to start targeting this one. So we can see that some of the shots that land here on the roof did blow up a few Indian troops. But you can see this house has only lost 8%, and I've still been targeting that pretty heavily. Same with this one, 25. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. They're abandoning this house as I've at this point destroyed quite a lot of it, plus it's coming under artillery fire. So they're going to move this Indian troop out. what they're trying to do, or I saw them trying to go through here, so I was expecting him to actually charge towards my artillery. So I'm moving one group over to check their advance. I can see some of our retreating troops. Out of 240, only 2 guys remain. 3 out of that unit. The fighting has been very heavy and very deadly. But I've got more troops ready to be sent in. So we got 3 units here. We've got the 2 elite battalions as well being ready to send down in the very last moments of the battle. So I still have 3 units here. We have this unit over here. We got these guys, which are trying to rout the enemy over here. Going, making sure the house is Indian free. Checking the back streets as well. There's a few troops lying dead even here. These guys though lie in a post that suggests they would have been blown away. So probably blown off the roof of this building. And then flew against and hit here. And it's going to be a very heavy fight as we go through a lot of these buildings. We've got some Indian troops pulling back out of this house. One by one making it out, making it down the stairs and away. I'm wondering though what this house in terms of... We made 25% progress in destroying this one and just 12 here. I wonder if there's some way, the way that they've been placed, that is what's causing them not to really be damaged as much. And it's a really heavy position to attack. Troops are getting really tired at this point, but we still have quite a long way to go, because I need to go... Right now we've taken the trench line, but we still have to fight our way through this and out a bit of the town, and then we need to push through this street to get into the main city courtyard. I know all of these 3 houses are actually got units deployed in them, and we got the British general over here overseeing it all as the town slowly just becomes a pile of smoking rubble. We have been able, due mostly I think to artillery fire, been able to cut down a large portion of the rifle corps. As I recall though, we are going to charge to try and get them away from there completely. So I'm charging up this unit to get through the, I don't know, date trees, orchard, if that's what it's called. Charging through there, attacking rifle corps, trying to force them away from this position, opening up this side street. And the numbers are in our favor, 46 Turkish troops against 16. But we are receiving quite heavy fire from this house. We've got a large amount of Indian troops here, being able to lay down murderous fire on what's left of our group here after the charge. I am going to target this house specifically with artillery fire, and we're going to absolutely blow it to pieces. The other rifle corps unit that was here retreated into this house, and I think we can hear a little bit of fire coming out of this. Actually, some troops standing outside the house. So I have a small group of 22 men. They're actually going to go down here, go down the road and try and fight with these guys. We've already hit this one to 25%. More artillery fire incoming. Looks like the artillery shell actually broke through the roof and exploded inside, because there's a lot of Indian troops inside. Or it could have landed in the back side of the house, throwing shrapnel in through the windows, not entirely sure. I've got another group of 93 men there. And we got this group standing right here. Trying to fight. I was hoping they were gonna fight these guys, but they're just standing there making target practice on the rifle corps, which still has 52 men. So I was hoping they would actually be able to fire on these guys, but yeah, just target practice right now. We're targeting heavily this center building, even though I'm not actually destroying the building. A few shots, as we can see, have landed on the roof and kind of clear that out. Also, the Indians have a pretty good fire arc from within here, down the street, onto our troops down there. That is also being fired upon by the rifle corps. Looks like we're now starting to target this more. I can see quite a bit of smoke. We're gonna see when this house breaks down. I am moving one troop over here. They're gonna sit on an angle and shoot at this house while it's getting demolished by artillery fire. So it's down to 75%. If it goes down to 100, every single occupant of the house will die. So that's what we're looking for when we're trying to blow this up. Although the house seems to be split into two houses, one which is 75 and one that is at this point 100. It's a bit odd that I cannot see, or the fact that the troops are hidden like that when they're in the building. Which makes it really hard to fight houses like that. Now they're moving out of the house though, but it's too little too late. The house got demolished and every single Indian troop inside of it died. Except this one guy, which I don't know where he was hiding. But he's the only one that... Well, he survived the house exploding, but he got shot down by the troops. We still have resistance in this area. But now we should be able to move up safely through the side street, trying to take on this house. And then focus our attention to this area and move through here to the final assault. I've moved up troops here. I cannot remember exactly why it took so long. Now, we didn't really see that, but it took a very long time for them to actually get into a position where they would start to fire at the enemy. So I think they were actually firing at the house, which I'm trying to direct them to not fire at the house, but it seems to be not working that great. Also, this house seems to be made of some sort of super material, as I've been bombarding it forever, but we've yet to do a single point of damage on it. I think we're gonna miss that. No, it's not here actually. It's not here. There's another shot, which is really, that looks really cool because it explodes right in such an area like this, and everyone up there is cleared out by the explosion. Looks like we have a charge. Oh, yes. I forgot about that. That little group tried to charge in here. But we actually had one Turkish soldier. I was looking at the actual battle and looking inside the house. There's one Turkish soldier that attack here, and he's able to kill like 5 British Rifle Corps troops before he is taken out. Some of the good things, well, the houses are not always good positions to hold, because outside, of course, every man, all these 76 guys are able to put down fire towards this area. While for the Rifle Corps, they only got these 5 windows to fire out of. Now, given how many they are and how close it is, you'd imagine they'd be able to shoot these guys. But clearly not. And the artillery fire has done very little to the house. We're only down to 40%, even though multiple artillery shots have gotten direct hits. Time to charge in and take control of the house. Force that rifle corps out of there. I think none is gonna survive though. We're gonna completely take over the house. And then there's an advance here by my troops. Let's see. They haven't gone up to the second floor as of yet, but there is fighting downstairs. I think though, as I recall, I didn't actually send them into the house, I just sent them forward. And with the way the houses are kind of structured, my troops ended up inside of it, and that's why it kind of became like that. But there's a massive pushback by the Indians on my attack here. So there's lots of Indian troops. However, we've got one of the elite battalions now moving forward. The thing with these guys is they are really good at melee, so especially against the Indian troops, which at this point are very tired, so that reduces their melee capability, and also the fact that they don't have that great melee capability to start off with. So the elite Istanbul battalion is going to do very well in melee. At the same time, I talked a little bit about the Indians sending one troop out. Oh, it's only one guy at this point. But they sent out here. I thought they were going to attack the artillery, but they never got around to it. And these guys have been sitting, firing back and forth for a very long time, to the point where there's only one Indian guy left, fighting with 74 guys over there. And there he goes down. But the Indians there fought to the last man. But now I'm able to send these guys, these 74 men, into town as well to help out in the fighting. The melee fight here has more or less died out. We lost 40 men, but the Indians here lost an entire unit of 240-ish men. So the Istanbul battalion proved themselves in hand-to-hand combat. And they're going to clear out these side streets as well. Meanwhile, we have smaller groups of our troops moving forward. I think I almost hit my own guys there. I did hit my own guys there. So at this point, we have secured the front lines there, and now we've secured the house area here. But I mean, this is a heavy cost. We have had probably around 2,000 casualties, most likely on both sides. So 2/3 of everyone on the field has died, either from these close quarters fighting, artillery shot, machine gun fire, and so on. It's been absolutely devastating. And looks like the Indian troops here are... I liked how they kind of sidestepped and both kind of cut down people there. I don't know. I don't think we even went upstairs. But now it's we're moving to attack the last area. So here, I didn't realize, but there was actually an Indian unit in this house. Rather than trying to charge it, I moved my troops into this side. So we set up at this house. And from this house, we're firing on the Indians across the street, which are held up in that house over there. Which they're promptly gonna abandon to melee charge our troops. So they're gonna attack the Istanbul battalion, and this is a fresh unit. Not only that, it's gonna stand and fire at them. Which promptly got the Indians to retreat back into their house. However, they're not really firing to the guys across the street, and also my guys across the street stopped firing. But that's just due to the AI being a little bit stupid. Also, I moved my troops into this house. Mostly, I was hoping that they'd melee charge and kill these horse carriages. But the house was so broken that my troops ended up a little bit here and there. So I don't know really what happened there. Oh, now this looked like they're firing. I guess they were targeting this house now, which I promptly get these guys out. I can't remember if I was gonna... I think I moved them over to that house rather than charge this. We're also receiving quite a bit of fire from this house at this point. Here is where we're gonna get an artillery shell landing right up there, and it's gonna clear out the entire top of that building, which is gonna be pretty cool. But I'm moving up my artillery to get a better position to fire at the inner courtyard. So I have a heavy howitzer, and then I have 2 light howitzers to blast this town. There's some troops back here. I can't remember. Oh, there's some Indians. They're wall hacking that needs to be stabbed. But otherwise, we're preparing to go down these streets and attack this area right here. There's a lot of buildings being captured back and forth. I think we'll speed it up until... Okay, the Indians are now pulling out of that house as we are pulling forward. They're going... Oh, there's surprisingly a lot of them. No, that's my... No, that's my unit. We charged in and took control of this house. There's a bit of a mistake in there. So the Istanbul battalion is now moving forward to attack this house right here. Pretty good defensive position right here, pulling down a lot of fire. The thing is, though, a bit of micromanagement problem here. These guys would have absolutely murdered the Istanbul battalion if it weren't for the fact that they're actually firing at the guys in the house here. And I think too late they are told to switch target. And I actually set my Istanbul battalion to take charge of this house instead, to fire from over here, from a defensive position of their own, to kind of cover them from enemy fire. And now, now they're firing towards us, which is a little bit too late, as we're now within our own compound to defend. However, you can see we're stacking way too many troops on the roof, which could be very dangerous. There's also fire coming from that house, and I do believe he's got a unit in that house as well. Which I was surprised that he had that many units left. So that means he's got around 750 men. And I do not have that many troops. Oh, now comes the artillery shots. You're gonna see the shot that lands here and clears that out. Boom! It was actually multiple shots. This house is not a one of those broken houses, so it's well, it's 2 houses, so one is 75 and one is 50, but they're rapidly dropping in health, and the entire house collapses and takes all the Indian troops with it. I'm moving out to charge, counter-charge an Indian unit that... I guess he realized, seeing as to how easy I broke this house down, that it's probably best to abandon the houses. So he's going to abandon this one, he's going to abandon that one, and it's going to be a melee fight out in the street. However, I of course have my elite battalions, which are going to make mincemeat out of the Indian troops, just because we're so much better at melee. Charging a bit all over the place. Artillery fire coming in just to completely destroy the houses here in the back, just so he doesn't retreat back into them. Also, I wouldn't target the enemy units anyways, because my troops are in melee fight with them. And at this point, the only real two big units that I have, or two manageable units, are the two Istanbul battalions. And all of the other units are down below 100 men. The ones that I have, I should say, because I don't have a lot of them. So we got melee fight around this house here. We got melee fighting around over here. But it is the end of the battle we're looking at. One guy got cornered over there by lots of Indian troops. We have some of our own guys fighting in the debris and the rubble here. Pushing that guy over. Also set up this unit. Close range. Firing straight into these guys. And then charging in melee. It's a bit annoying because the troops, as they pass by, they sort of glitch into the house and give me those messages all the time. You can see artillery is still going on, blowing up different houses all over the place. We blew up this house as well. Really cool house though, with a lot of potential for troops to sit. They've got, can sit up here, can sit along the walls there. If it just didn't explode so easily, it'd probably be a really good area to hold. Indian troops shattered, falling back. British general set up right here. I think, if I recall correctly, a large part of the general's bodyguard for some reason managed to get into this house and got stuck here, which is a bit odd. And I decided to move my own general within range to fight him. So here comes the Turkish general. Thing is that the entire group, 24 men, fire their pistols. They only get one guy at a time. So I decide to melee charge. However, because the unit stuck within the house means that I can't properly charge them. So I'll have to just ride straight into them. And that is what's going to end the fight. With a melee fight right around the general's bodyguard. Let's see if we speed that up. So, yes, now I've realized that I need to charge them straight into each other. And a melee fight in between the Turkish bodyguard and the British general's bodyguard break out. Enemy general was killed. And the battle is over. I'm calling in artillery just because I want to blow up the rest of his general unit. Which I do partly. Also note that I only lost one guy out of my bodyguard. However, at this point the fight is not over, as I recall. Because there is somewhere... there is Indian troops hiding, which haven't given up. Even though, I mean, if we look at the town, you can look at it from the sky, the entire town is kind of blown up. The only area is kind of here where we didn't go. But there's Indian troops somewhere hiding in all this carnage and massacre. Oh? Close to range? Ah, yes, these guys. that was stuck up here. What are they going to do? So the general passes out. I'm gonna send him to the I'm gonna send him back to the artillery. Well, that was the plan anyways. I haven't realized yet that the last Indian troop is hiding here. Very much to my dismay, I realized it way too late. And we got the Indian troops now firing on my general as he rides back, tries to ride out of range. He gets sniped. So, right at the end, my opponent gets that one revenge on me. We're gonna target these guys so with everything we have. So all artillery pieces will be targeting this area. Plus my units are now moving back to clear the house by melee fight if necessary. But the Indians have completed quite the feat. Like this guy's right here, which is flying. Go closer. That is the fight. This is the last Indian unit. I don't know how many there are left actually. Oh, one of my provincial units. I have a single guy in the unit. And he's gonna go up to deal with these guys. Avenge his general. However, before he gets up there, the Indian decides, you know what? It's probably time to skedaddle. It's time for the assassins to run away. As I recall from the my opponent's stats, I can't actually remember if there was anything important I needed to know from there. I will put them in here in post-production, put them somewhere so you can see them. Anyways, as we can see, we deployed similar amount of troops. I deployed about 300 more. We can see that there's very high casualty rate. Only about 500 men of mine survived, while only about 250 of the Indians survived. In terms of friendly fire, we can see that we shot about 350 of our own, and my opponent shot about... he shot a lot more of his own. Or I'm not entirely sure, because it could be houses breaking down, and that could have been... but there we can see almost 800, well, closer to 700. In terms of statistics on my side, highest killer is light howitzer, followed by heavy howitzer. Then we got first Istanbul Battalion, really good melee fighting and so on, so they got a lot of kills. Then other light howitzer. Here I was actually surprised to see the reserve cavalry at one of the top units, but we can see when it comes down to it, we can see that most of the kills sustained or that we achieved on the enemy in this battle is comprised to a lot of to a few units, where many of my units, say this one 95, but they lost all hands, and similarly we see that throughout. So attacking this position didn't go that well. It was astonishingly bad for the provincial troops, where we had about 1,000 provincial troops, which combined managed to kill 30 enemies. 1,000, well, not exactly 1,000. 960 troops managed to kill 30 enemies. But they did their job by soaking up a lot of fire for my better troops. But there we have that. I think actually in the first one I did of this map, the Amara map, that I said that I wanted to go back and do it in multiplayer. I didn't know at that time that it would take me about 2 years and a new version of the mod to actually come back and do that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye!
have taken the building, sir. We have taken the building. We have killed their generals. Now they must flee.
Following orders, open fire! Hücum mu? Allah bize güç versin.
Sir, your general has been killed. This is a black day. The entire unit is dead, sir.